Hi there, and welcome to the latest episode of the Manufacturing IT podcast. Joined today by Shawn Opatka from Honeywell. Shawn and I have known each other for a while. So, Shawn, please give us a bit of an intro into who you are and kind of what you do.
Hi, Dan. Excited to be here today. Thanks for having me. I'm Shawn Opatka. I'm Vice President, General Manager of Honeywell's Life Science business. I've been in the life science industry for well over the last 15 years, several different companies, several different roles, all focused in life science manufacturing, primarily around digital solutions, whether it be process automation, MES, analytics, the entire ecosystem, if you will.
No, that's good. Thanks for sharing, Shawn. So you and I go a little way back. I remember you and I connected on LinkedIn back when you were at Emerson, I think. But then we worked together when you were at Werum and kind of collaborated on a few bits and pieces. So I was really intrigued when I saw you'd kind of moved on to Honeywell and keen to kind of get a bit of an insight into what you're up to now and what your role entails.
Sure, it's a really exciting time. The reason I decided to join Honeywell. There's this culture of innovation in the company and the opportunity to come in and focus on the industry I've been working in for most of my career and really help build something and try and be disruptive. I think the way the industry is changing today, there's opportunity for companies like Honeywell and the manufacturers to work together and come up with new solutions to new problems and maybe some older problems. So that was a big reason I made the decision to join Honeywell, along with the technology leadership that the company has. Always been a company I admired and really excited to be part of it.
Now that's interesting to hear. Can you share much on the innovation side?
Well, yeah, Honeywell, we really want to reinvent the way companies measure, analyze, and run their operations. It's all about this digital ecosystem, if you will, where everything's always connected, everything's learning, people are free to focus on strategic tasks, quality and operational data, really important in the industry, are accessible and actionable to all. It's easy to get, easy to integrate, easy to analyze. And, I'd really like to help make every worker an expert. Thanks to the insights we can provide with our customers, we hope to make them capable of making better and faster decisions.
No, that's interesting, and I guess making each employee within the kind of shop floor and manufacturing site more intelligent and more clued up to the data they're producing can only lead to better results. But in terms of your ecosystem at Honeywell and the life science piece, what's your plan and vision? Where are you looking to take that business unit?
Yeah, well, when I look at it, Dan, as we said, it is an ecosystem, and of course Honeywell play in parts of it. I think about things like data integrity, of course, process automation, something Honeywell would be very well known for, quality and compliance with the recent acquisition we did of Sparta Systems, cybersecurity, sustainability, and then, of course, lifecycle management, getting the most out of your solutions. So those are really the main focus areas that are part of Honeywell. But I think the industry, Dan, is changing, as we've all seen. And it's important to also take a bigger look at things, whether that's through partnerships, relationships with customers, or technology and other solution providers. But we want to be part of it and really drive that value with our partners, whether it be a customer or an actual provider of other solutions.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about the kind of acquisition with Sparta, because I knew Sparta to be a leader in the field that they operated within. And it makes a lot of sense to acquire companies and to build upon the knowledge that they have. Do you see the more acquisitions in this space and around the kind of whole life cycle management and process automation and MES? Do you think the acquisition piece is something that's going to be a key part going forward?
I do. It's a bit hard for me to comment on specifics, as you might imagine.
No breaking news.
But there's been acquisitions in the news recently. And it's always part of how companies look to grow. And I think it is important, especially as the way the industry changes and is reshaped. Mergers, acquisitions will certainly be a part of it.
Yeah, no, I get that, and obviously one of the things that attracted me to having you on the podcast, Shawn, was your background working with some of the key players in the market and key companies that I've recruited for and worked with, and obviously understand intimately. But keen to know your kind of idea on the landscape at the moment across MES and the whole manufacturing IT spectrum. So how do you see it at the moment?
Yeah, I see it changing. I think really COVID has the pandemic, unfortunately, but it's driven some changes in the industry. The way we work, the way we approach things certainly has changed. What tools we use, how we collaborate. We're all presumably sitting at home right now, you and I, working from home and not in office,
Yeah.
and that's okay for people like us. I think we can do our jobs typically from that space. But think about trying to run a manufacturing facility and produce drugs. It's changed. So what's important, and I think our customers, in talking to them, have learned how to focus on what matters, how to prioritize. And I think we'll see the tools they use to do these things start to change as well. Looking at new solutions, different ways to add value and eliminate some of the processes that maybe existed for a long time just because they were there. This has really accelerated the pace of change as far as digitization goes.
Yeah, and I can see that from a recruitment perspective as well. Obviously, as you say, you and I are working from home, it's fairly comfortable, but how do you operate a shop floor, and how do you ensure the manufacturing processes remain? And I think the interesting challenge I've seen is how companies are looking to spread their teams, not only from a point of kind of social distancing maybe, but also in terms of sharing knowledge and insight across different facilities and different people within those. How do you think COVID's affected many of the manufacturers that you come into contact with?
Yeah, I think it's affected them greatly, and not just looking at it from across facilities, looking at it from home, looking at it from your phone. Having those analytics at your fingertip, or information, if you will, that is changed or has changed, and will continue to evolve. And what you said there, Dan, I think is really key. How you bring this to an enterprise level. Of course, it's important at the plant level, but as you start to connect things at a higher level, and with some of the technologies available today, whether it be tools or technology like cloud, right? You can start to bring together more data, more knowledge, more information, and make useful decisions and insights, gain insights from it. So I think that will rapidly evolve, and some things we're looking at Honeywell as well, and how we do that. Of course, the Sparta acquisition we talked about earlier, a big part of that was their use of AI, the fact that they're a cloud platform. Those types of solutions, I think we're going to see more and more in our industry, whereas other industries, maybe they're a bit further along.
Yeah, I think that's something that's always blown my mind a little bit with kind of life science domain as whole, in terms of kind of how that cloud adoption and maybe, shall I say, a little bit behind other industries in how well they adopt to kind of cloud technologies and putting things like an MES into a cloud. But do you find that at the moment there's a lot of resistance to change, or companies are recognizing that things do need to change, things have changed, and now they're opening the floodgates to change? Or do you still think there's a bit of reluctance and reticence?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's reluctance. I think there is acceptance, and maybe recognition that change needs to come and will come. But in our industry, with the patient at the center of everything we do, it's really important to make good decisions, and understand the impact the decisions you're making on use of technology. For example, if you're moving data to the cloud, how it would impact your operations. I do think it's changing. I see more and more people talking about different types of innovation, digital technologies, how they can be used. And I think you'll see it more on the periphery.
Okay.
And in the future, get more close to actually happening on the plant floor. The technology's there, it's being smart about it.
And that's always the interesting thing. So I feel like in a fairly lucky position that I don't have to have these hard conversations with either the executives above me or or the shop floor personnel working with me. But how do you drive that change from the vendor side where you are? How do you give your clients and give manufacturers and give everybody involved the confidence that what you're saying, what you're suggesting is the future and is that path? How do you get over that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. And I think the technology you can prove, right? And it may take some time, but you can prove out that something technically works. It's about picking the right partner, the right team, working together, and the right approach, so that everyone feels comfortable and work through that change management process. It's a big part of it, for sure. And I think that's where we'll see, things start to change. And why I talked earlier about partners, not any one vendor is going to have all the answers. And sometimes you need to bring in experts from other areas to bring the ecosystem together. So something we're very focused on.
Do you think that's something that's become about recently in terms of recognizing that no one vendor has all of the answers? Because I think I always hear, as often we do in life, you often hear the negative things more than the positive things, and often hear that, vendor A sold us a dream, vendor B told it was a complete solution. Do you think now we're kind of evolving our mentality and mindset to recognizing that we don't have all the answers, or some vendors don't have all the answers, and there is a much more acceptance to seek support from a different provider or seek guidance from a different provider who might be specialists in that area?
Yeah, I think it has changed. Maybe it comes with age and our experience as well, to be honest. But yeah, certainly, I think the industry, in all seriousness, has changed to the way they look at that, as have some of the companies. Certainly at Honeywell and what I'm trying to drive in the life science business, it's something well recognized amongst the entire team. And how we work with the industry.
No, and that's interesting to hear. And obviously, we've mentioned the word change a few times, and we've touched upon some of those challenges that are more rapidly, COVID being one, and different challenges faced. But if you were to, look into the future and check through the crystal ball, what do you think the shop floor and manufacturing within the life sciences domain looks like in the next kind of 3 to 5 years, and what's the most pertinent change that we can likely expect?
Yeah, I'd really like to have that crystal ball so I can get ahead of it. But the things I see today are more autonomous type operations, more guided operations by digital technologies. And when I talk about that, it could be on the shop floor, but as you know, and we've discussed many times, in my experience, it's often in kind of that validated process. But there's a lot of things that happen outside of that. And I think that's where we'll start to see the change first, maybe things that don't impact the so-called batch record directly. I think we're already seeing some technologies and companies introduce things there that are improving operations. There's quite a bit of manual operations in our facilities today. And I think that's where it'll start to change. They may stay manual, but the way they're done and people are guided to their work, I think that's where we'll see the biggest change.
And is that in a sense of removing the personnel from the shop floor and those tasks being carried out by robots, by AI? Is that what you're referring to? Is that what you see it?
Yeah, I'm not sure robots yet, not in our industry, but AI certainly, and we do some of this in some of our technology, right? And with AI, you can give a recommendation based on what's happened in the past. Still leave it up to the person there on the shop floor, experiencing what's happening and seeing it firsthand to make the decision. but we can provide some insight to guide them, maybe to a certain direction based on some real data, and that hopefully can improve efficiency and time it takes to do some tasks.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, AI for me is a really, really interesting one, but I would say my knowledge is fairly limited on that front at the moment, and it's definitely an area that I'm keen to work on. I guess the thing that I'm always fascinated with when I speak to leaders like yourself, Shawn, is how you keep up with the demand for expanding technology, disruptive technology that makes challenges the industry, but also then acquiring the right talent from a recruitment perspective into this topic. So it always seems to me a bit like the cart before the horse in terms of, do you look for the technology and expand that piece, or then how do you find the right staff who have the knowledge of the whole life cycle to bring that in?
Yeah, another good question, and it's, I can give both sides of the coin to this one. So when I look at a company like Honeywell, vast technology expertise, and growing life science experience. So how do we take that expertise and the people that we have that truly understand, for example, process automation? Think about refining, where Honeywell would have quite a bit of experience, continuous processes. How do we take all that experience and build it into the technology solution for life sciences? Certainly an area that the industry has been looking at for some time, and I think we're on the cusp of seeing some people start to manufacture in more of a continuous process. So it's about, in my role, right, as life sciences, developing that expertise in the industry, whether it's through training, bringing in some people with experience in the industry, again, partnering maybe with consultants that help us better understand. On the flip side of that, of course, we always are looking for people that have experience in the industry that can bring a new way of thinking to the team. So we certainly need to continue to build on that, especially as we scale at Honeywell and our life science business continues to grow. We need to have those experts around the globe. So we also look at bringing in people from the outside.
And that's where you and I can work further together.
Absolutely.
One of the areas that I always find interesting, Shawn, as well, is coming from a technology background myself. So my background is in IT recruitment, and I kind of started to work towards more manufacturing and life science process understanding. Is getting that perfect combination in the recruitment focus of somebody who understands the batch processing or batch manufacturing or pharmaceutical regulations, but then also has the deep appreciation for technology and how that side works. From your perspective, is there a preferred route that you would have someone come from? So somebody work up from the shop floor who understands the whole manufacturing process, all of that good stuff, but then learns the technology? Or would you rather someone start on the technology side, deep understanding from programming or whatever it might be, that works down to the shop floor? Do you have a preference on what you think would yield the best results?
Yeah, I think you and I have had this conversation several times. I don't know that you always find the person that has everything. So how do you determine which is a priority? And I think it's about the role that the person is going to come into, the part of the organization. And look, in our business, we're primarily doing projects, whether it's projects with customers or internal projects to develop new technology. So it's about getting that blend in the team right. You may need your process expert to be part of the project, but then you also need the technology expert to help articulate that, put it into the system you're putting in place as well. So it's it is difficult to really think about someone that has it all. I guess my answer is it depends on what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I think from my perspective, that's one of the hardest things from a recruitment perspective at the moment, is to find where that compromise is with clients, because recruitment is about finding the right people at the right time, of course, but it's also about compromising from the client's perspective, where we can find the tolerance for kind of compromise on that.
Yeah, it is a compromise, right?
Yeah.
And look, we have large teams, especially at Honeywell and in my previous companies. So I think you can find the balance in the organization that you need to be
Yeah.
successful. Um, Bottom line is good talent is good talent, and if I come across them, it's certainly something I want to add to the team at Honeywell.
Yeah, no, agreed. I understand. So just want to kind of understand from your side, obviously your background, as you detailed at the start, what's your passion, Shawn? Where do you get your kicks from going to work, and where do you see your kind of, passion and enthusiasm for what you do?
Yeah, and it's part of the reason I joined Honeywell. It's really about, as I mentioned in the intro, the culture, working with people. I don't have a deep technology background, but I've worked with it most of my career, probably enough to be dangerous in certain parts. But it's about how to apply that, right? And how do we get value for our customers out of that? That's really what gets me excited, having those conversations, taking different approaches, whether it's disruptive technology, disruptive approach, maybe looking at different business models. Those are the types of things that I get excited about. And we've been going through at Honeywell recently as we build out our strategy to continue to grow in this industry.
No, that's interesting to hear. And I think from my perspective, one of the things I enjoy about working within the recruitment focus of the life science domain is around the fact that through some small little part, some small little cog in a big wheel, that helping patients and helping a noble cause in the life science domain. And I guess that really leads me to kind of the personalized medicine, cell and gene therapy, and that I find super interesting. Is that an area that you guys work within, and is that an area that you kind of have a desire to expand into and work across?
We certainly do. To all of it, we do work in it today.
Okay.
We look to continue to work with clients in that space and improve our offerings. And I say improve our offerings because, as you well know, it's a rapidly evolving segment of the industry. To date, there's been a lot of solutions that are, maybe not built for purpose. And I'm not suggesting everything needs to be built for the industry specific, but how do we deliver things that are more relevant to what that segment of the industry needs? And I think that's something that's starting to evolve as we think about how different it really is, the manufacturing process, much smaller scale, the need to be much more flexible. In our industry, a lot of those things weren't built into the original solutions. So how do we adapt? And again, I'll go back to partnering. How do we partner with the industry to come up with those solutions, or just to look at a different way to apply our solutions for that segment?
No, that's interesting, and I know we can't mention companies by name as such, but how does a company like Honeywell keep up with, say, the new kids on the blocks, the challenges in the industry, to adapt as focused? So for a smaller company, it's obviously more easy, or it's easier for them to be agile and to adjust to patient needs or client needs or shop floor needs. But how does a company the size of Honeywell pivot and change and keep up to speed with the new challenges in the space?
Yeah, that's great, and that's part of the life science organization in Honeywell, actually, to have that approach. And with how rapidly things are changing, we need to do that as well.
Fine. Okay. So you've got this huge, financially stable, great track record business that are giving you the chance to act as a kind of niche smaller provider and be agile with those changes.
That's absolutely it.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I start to see the excitement in there. what
Absolutely.
attracted you to the role?
Yes.
So look, Shawn, we're almost at the end of the interview and the talk, but I was keen just to kind of finish up on your thoughts for MES, and kind of your thoughts on how MES remains as key to manufacturers in their digital transformation journey, as other things like an IoT platform or AR or VR or whatever it might be? Do you still see MES as the center point to that digital transformation for manufacturers?
I think it's an important piece, for sure. It could still be at the center, but I don't think MES, as we go forward, will be the same MES it always has been. We talked about flexibility before. We talked about change. All that's being introduced into our industry. Again, if I think about COVID and the way it's impacted supply chains, just this need for the flexibility, it's going to find its way into systems and tools, and I think MES is one of those that certainly will adapt over time, some quicker than others. And you may start to see the use of MES a little bit different. Again, thinking about autonomous, we talked about the validated portion of the process and what really needs to go into a batch record. I think we might see things slim down a bit in the MES space and really focus on what's critical, and that'll be what's important to MES. And then it'll, of course, need to be integrated to other systems, other platforms. And I think you used a key word there. I think the platform approach is certainly a way that's going to impact this industry quite significantly.
And just on what you said, do you think that adjustment and change that the MES, traditional MES landscape is, and that adaptive period now that they might be entering, do you think that's driven by what competitors are doing and what new kids on the block are doing, or do you think that's changed by what customers actually want and how MES is perceived by the manufacturers?
I think it's the latter. I truly believe it has to do with what the industry is looking for. MES has been a journey. I started fairly early on in my career with MES, and it was slow adoption rate in the industry. And a lot of companies have now adopted it, but there's a whole nother part of this industry that now see maybe some of the bigger users gaining value from a solution like MES and trying to figure out how they can get that value out. And I think that's where the change will be driven from, because it's just different economics of how you look at MES for, say, a contract manufacturer as opposed to a big bio facility. They're quite different. The value you can get out of MES is the same, but we need to find different ways to apply the solution and deliver it.
And I guess to interpret and use the data that comes out as well.
Absolutely. Very much important to everything we do today. And the technologies out there that can now help us interpret that data. As you're well aware, MES and other digital tools create a lot of data. Now it's all about getting those insights and hopefully getting to the point of making decisions. I think we're probably close to the proactive stage. It'd be great to see us get to more of a predictive stage.
No, that's interesting. And is that something we can expect, the predictive phase, in the next few months, years, or decades? Where does that where does that sit on the time continuum?
Yeah, I think it's months, maybe up to a year. It's certainly something that we've really been able to accelerate with our recent acquisition of Sparta and some of their technology. How do we get to that predictive state? How do we predict quality? The tools are capable, and now how do we pull it all together?
Yeah. The question that's going to help everyone, I guess, in terms of predicting guaranteed results each time and no wastage on the batches or whatever it might be. That's what everyone's looking for, I guess.
Absolutely right. And it's something we're focused on, and really you'll see some unique approaches from Honeywell where we can partner with customers to get to those results, put some skin in the game, if you will.
I mean, that sounds pretty interesting. And why don't we have a follow-up episode, Shawn, and when we've got some of those case studies we can talk about, or maybe some of those bits and pieces you can share, and you can give us that insight. That would be great.
Absolutely, would love to do it.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, look, Shawn, it's been a pleasure chewing the fat with you and having a conversation around the industry. Obviously, great to hear your insight into how you view things.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. Always great to catch up.
Yeah, thanks for your time. Cheers, Shawn.
Thanks.